So welcome. It's May 12th, 2020. I'm Joe Weston, and we're here for our weekly online global practice for lasting peace. And it's nice to see, always nice to see familiar faces. I look forward to this time to see faces of people that I know and who are coming back on a regular basis. And it's always a treat to see new faces. So if you're here for the first time, it might be nice to just type in or let us know what city you're in or what country you're in. If you wouldn't mind muting as we get started, that would be helpful. And feel free, if you want to share at any point, you can always unmute yourself and share. And as for many of you know, we're here on a weekly basis, and we've been doing this actually for a couple of years to create a community around the world. And what I say is to use this medium of the World Wide Web to weave a golden thread of lasting peace throughout the planet. And as I always say, just to share quickly that this idea of lasting peace is different from peace. We all, there's a sense of peace, and I can spend quite a long time talking about what does peace mean, and talking to people from in different fields, including colleagues of mine in the conflict resolution field, and and establishing that establishing peace is a first step. It's when you get people to put down arms, or people are no longer harming each other. And that in itself is not the end result. I would say that's just the beginning. Because what comes after that is the hard work of, okay, so now we've agreed not to harm each other. We've agreed to no longer call each other enemies. But what's the work now that has to be done for us to shift our viewpoints, habits, and patterns to actually get along with each other, or at least be civil with each other and show respect to one another? And that's the hard work. That's because that's a moment-to-moment thing, and it's not only just an idea of, yeah, I'm gonna decide I'm gonna get this kind of a haircut, for instance, or I'm gonna decide to grow my beard or something like that. That's an idea, and we can do that. But it's the day-to-day, moment-to-moment. And the hardest part of that is when we look at our viewpoints, habits, patterns, and tendencies. They're so intertwined with our nervous system and our patterning that we've established since the moment we were born. And for those of you who might even look at biology in a different way, may already be in our DNA, some of our patterning that we have and how we experience the world. So when I say that the work starts with a sense of settlement or peace, that the hard work comes after, that's what we're here to cultivate. Is how can we cultivate a deeper level of fierce compassion where we can open our hearts to a larger community of people that don't just include those that we would see as friends or loved ones, and at the same time developing a deeper level of resilience so that we have more control and ownership over our own reactive behavior and the patterns in our nervous system, and tribal patterns and patterns that we've learned, and that's the work, and that's what we're here to do with each other, to cultivate that through the practices we do, and through being in community and supporting one another. And it's great to see this group of people, and I always say that if you commit to coming to this even once, that I honor you, because there's something in you that I would call heroic. You don't have to call it heroic. I call it heroic, where they're at least curious about this idea of what is lasting peace and what can your part be in that. And that's the essence of this work, is how do we find ways to be resilient and have more of an impact in a way that where we can actually see that who we are and what we have to offer has an impact, not only on ourselves, those close to us, but maybe even on the whole planet. So today I wanted to talk, usually what we do is I give a little bit of a talk like I'm doing now, just to set the intention, and then I lead you in the practice, and afterwards we have time to reflect, and then we do a little dedication. So I just want to share a little bit today. We've been talking about many different things, and one thing I wanted to bring up was this idea of, so in this meditation, there's a point in the practice where we connect with all human beings, but we also connect with one another as literally like we're sitting in circle, like all of us now. There's almost 30 of us on this call. And part of that is that how can we connect with those sitting in the circle? And we're using the medium of the World Wide Web to do that. And it's kind of on some level artificial. And circles have been with us since the beginning of man and woman and person to be able to commune in a way, something very sacred about that. And what we're doing here and what I think the world is beginning to discover is how do we create that same sense of sacred community through the internet, through this medium. And I want to just bring that up because, and I'm talking, we've been doing this program with NASA, stress reduction program, and talking to other companies. And what's been coming up lately is, people have been trying to stay in touch, but the quality of how people are staying in touch is beginning to have an effect on others, where there's suddenly in the workplace or just in a family system or this question of feeling valued and a sense of belonging is suddenly up for people, and that can trigger more anxiety and more disconnect, and that can unfortunately be a vicious cycle. So the things that we often think about when we're in community, what I'm offering to consider for us is perhaps now we have to start looking at different ways and developing different skills and strategies about how we actively stay engaged with one another and really cultivate the quality of that. And then, there's articles out now about Zoom fatigue and various things like that. And oh my goodness, I can't tell you how often I'm on Zoom and how exhausting that is. And telephone and all of that. And I'm glad I'm doing it because it is important to stay engaged, not necessarily for me, but to make sure for others. But I'd like us to consider that what if we actually put some time and attention in how we're engaging? So for those of you who know the respectful confrontation work that I've developed, it's a methodology that I've developed. It starts, there's a whole process of understanding how to deepen relationship and collaborate in a deeper way and find new solutions to old problems. And it starts with what we call respectful self. It's about understanding the self. And the next is respectful engagement, is understanding the connection with other. And that seems obvious, but oftentimes we forget that in communication. And I believe that's part of the reasons why we end up in arguments and fights. And so what if we have to reinvent how we are actually engaging through this medium, through the internet? And that just to notice for yourself that it's easy to just see a group of squares, right? And it's easy to think that you're connected, and that can be what's partially exhausting. Usually, especially those who are more aware of energy and aware of interaction and understand the depths of relationship and intimacy, there should be a give and take, even if it's subtle, and even if it's no words, and even if you're not doing anything, just the exchange of presence. There is a give and there is a take. And I would say, if you are with other people, just follow that, practice that for a while and really see if that's true or not, the balance and flow in relationship. And I'm wondering if, for myself, I'm examining, and for this time, if we're missing that give and take because this is such a flat medium. It's just a bunch of squares that are flat, they're pictures. And they don't have to be, but because we've been trained that if you look at a screen and you see a picture, it's flat. And we don't really understand how to interact with a picture. If you go, I'm just going back to very basic, as a child, the wiring we've had. You don't expect a picture to talk back to you. And now suddenly we're in this, and I have to check myself and just realize, oh, I'm going back to this idea of I'm just looking at a flat screen. But we're in interaction. And how can we actually cultivate skills in all of our interactions on the internet where we're also practicing presence, connection, and actually encouraging the give and the take so that it doesn't have to be so exhausting and that it can actually be fulfilling and deepening. And this might be the new way we have to look at this. Believe me, I could tear my hair out if I had some and cry out into the clouds and the sky to think that I'm talking about cultivating intimacy through the internet. And everyone who knows me know it's all about the human interaction. But we're in this situation, and I'm wondering if this is something to consider. I want to just bring up Amelia Perkins, who's on this call, who does actually has a practice of doing relationship coaching with people. And I'm not sure if, Amelia, you have anything to say about that now or maybe afterwards, after the practice, but this idea of how are we interacting with each other, and how can we, in some way, I don't know if this is true, but the experiment is, how can we actually maybe walk away from a Zoom meeting feeling more energized? Because we've actively chosen to get into the dance of the give and the take. And that we're playing with that idea. And that we talked last time, and the last couple of times we've been talking about this idea of what does it mean to be met and to meet someone, and to be thinking about that in any interaction. The spark that can be created with someone, that's where transformation can happen. That's where deepening of relationship can happen. That's where new solutions can emerge. They're not going to emerge if you're if you're standing in a kind of like a stuck place of aggression or passivity or othering and labeling. Then there's no interaction, there's no back and forth, and you're not meeting the person. All you're doing is meeting your projection of them. And what could it be to let that projection go and really meet them for who they are, where they're at, making sure you're safe. You want to make sure you're safe, particularly in a challenging situation. But to be able to meet someone, particularly in this practice that we're doing of someone you might call adversary. Because as I've said, I believe the solution to our current problems isn't going to be found in discussions with people who already agree with you. If that were the case, we already would have found the solutions. This requires, what we're being asked to do is to figure out ways to have the courage and the skills to speak to people that are different, that are strangers, and that may even be adversaries, and to make sure we're safe, and to be surprised at the alliances you can make. And within that, to find, to hear other people's truths, share yours in a way that's respectful, and that's where the new ideas and new solutions can emerge. So it starts with understanding this idea of what does it mean to meet someone where they're at, and not where you want them to be or how you perceive them. Then the next thing is, once I've met someone, how can we, like a tango, how can we be in that dance where we're feeding each other, supporting each other, holding each other, encouraging each other? And I think that is something I'm offering, because let's explore that and see if we can, if that can also be realized through this medium, what I would consider very flat, of the World Wide Web. So Amelia, I don't know if you want to say something afterwards or now, what feels good for you?
I'll say a little something. I'll just say two things I've been playing with, actually inspired by this meditation, is this idea of, like, on Zoom calls, staying connected to my core. So I'm not only, because I realize I get really pooped when I'm like reaching in just with my mind, but if I'm like connected to my core and connected to awareness, it's like that part in the meditation where we like feel one another in the group. And it's often a very palpable, sweet thing. And I realize, kind of doy that it doesn't need to only happen in the meditation. It can also happen like, oh, let me feel into you with my core. And if I'm staying connected to my core during the call, at the very least, I'm staying connected to my core, but I don't come out like just like my brain has like dispersed over the internet. So it's a little
Right.
something.
Yeah, thank you. And that can also feed you energy if you're just connected with
Exactly.
your core. Beautiful. Amelia, I don't know if you want to type in your email address if anyone's interested to contact her around how she's bringing this kind of work into her relationship coaching. So if you feel open to that. So let's do our practice. So the practice is based on the core exercise that I've developed in the workshop called Respectful Confrontation. So, and working with this concept of your core, your center, and your lower belly. And for those of you who you probably know this from other practices, but to identify where that spot is, it's in your lower belly. It's about approximately the width of 3 fingers below your navel and 1/3 of the way into the body. So if you put your fingers together and you place your index finger over your navel, that's approximately the width of 3 fingers below your navel. Now bring your attention inside of your body, about 1/3 of the way. from the front of the body, identifying a point in your lower belly, approximately the width of 3 fingers below your navel, a third of the way into the body. It's what I would call your center, your core, your center of gravity, impulse, creativity, where your personal power resides. And it's your center of awareness and perception. So making sure you're sitting in a way where your spine is straight. Remember, the basis of this, what we're cultivating, is to be able to move through the world with an embodied sense of balance and flow. Balance and flow with yourself, with your surroundings and others. So sitting in a way where you're feeling that sense of balance, feeling the parts of your body that are connecting with what you're sitting on. Spine is straight, elongating from the back of your neck, so your jaws, your chin is tucked in a little bit, your jaw's relaxed, hands are relaxed, belly's relaxed. And imagine, we've been doing this now, incorporating both resilience and fierce compassion into this practice. The resilience part of it is imagine your core, this part of you is like a battery that you can fill up through whatever sense of energy you believe in, just universal life force energy, just from a physics perspective, it's this idea of tanking up, filling up your battery, and knowing that when your battery is full, that you have enough energy to make it through the day. It's a way of mitigating burnout. So just checking in with your core, just like you would compulsively, some of us, check your phone to make sure the battery is full. How full would you say your core is right now? Your own battery source. From 0 to 100, you could say. It could be 30, it could be 2, it could be 98. And the idea is to check this now and then to see by the end of the practice if that's changed at all. So finding a way to sit where you can be still. There's no right way to do this, wrong way to do this. It's about finding your way, bringing your full attention to your core, your center. And from your center, become aware of your physical body. You don't need to do anything. In fact, all you're doing is listening. Let your body speak to you. What we're cultivating is a deeper level of presence, deeper listening, awareness. From your center, become aware of your emotions. What emotions are you present to? Without judgment, simply observe, assess. There may be many emotions flowing through you. Which ones seem to be most on the surface? Allowing energy to flow through you and emotions to flow through you. Balance and flow. From your center, become aware of your thoughts. So not necessarily focusing on what the thoughts are, but the quality of the thoughts. Are they racing? Are they tight? And cultivating that dual focus of, from your awareness, being aware of your thoughts. And now maintaining your core, the sense of connection with your personal power as a foundation of this exercise, this practice. Now bringing awareness to your heart, or the middle of your chest, where your heart power resides. Compassion, respect, connection. And from your center and from your heart, become aware of the part of you that might connect with something larger than yourself. From your center and from your heart, opening your awareness to that part of you that might or has access to something larger than yourself. And that could be something spiritual, could be humanity, could be your highest values. And from that part of you, noticing what is the connection you now have with something larger than yourself. Do you have a connection? Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. And now with more of an awareness of yourself in this present moment, particularly now having brought attention to activating your core and activating your heart, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now, with more of awareness of yourself in this present moment, we are going to build on your awareness of what's unfolding in this present moment from yourself, from your center and from your heart. Become aware of your surroundings, keeping your eyes closed. And connecting, what is that experience, this idea of awareness from your center and your heart, opening to your surroundings? Behind you, above you. Sounds, smells. How are you meeting your surroundings? How are you being met by your surroundings? In essence, to consider how are your surroundings now energizing you and perhaps even filling up your battery. How are you meeting yourself? And how could different aspects of yourself, physically, emotionally, mentally, maybe spiritually, influence you and feed your battery? And with more of an awareness of yourself and your surroundings in this present moment, from your center and from your heart, take a deep, full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Maintaining now this awareness of yourself and your surroundings, and now from your center and from your heart, become aware of those in this circle, in this practice circle. And even with your eyes closed and in stillness, what is the experience you're having of meeting and being met by those in this practice circle? Various parts of the United States, North America, various parts of Europe, perhaps other places, cities. How might you be influencing them at this moment, simply with your presence and your awareness, from your personal power and your heart? And how might they be influencing you at this moment? Activating perhaps, or maybe your heart and energizing your core. Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. With more of an awareness of yourself, your surroundings, and those in this meditation circle, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And now building on this present moment with now awareness from your center and your heart with yourself, your surroundings, and those in this meditation circle, from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of all human beings, beginning first with those that you would label loved ones. So maintaining awareness and connection with yourself, your surroundings, and this meditation circle, now opening in your heart to those you would call loved ones. And what arises in your heart? Do you see faces? Do you see groups of people? And again, how might you be influencing them at this moment? And how might they be influencing you? And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those human beings that you would label as stranger. I'm assuming that that might be more than 7 billion for you. If not, well. And imagine if we could cultivate such a capacity within ourselves that we can actually sense a connection with all 7+ billion people in our hearts. And which strangers arise in your heart right now? Do you see faces? Do you see groups of people? Might be a neighbor, someone you saw in the grocery store. Someone on the other side of the planet. And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those that you would label adversary. And cultivating the practice of, from your personal power and your heart, connecting with those that you would consider adversaries. What's that experience? What faces arise with you, or groups of people? How might you be influencing them at this moment, and how might they be influencing you? Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. Now, with more of an awareness of yourself, your surroundings, those in this meditation circle, and all human beings, regardless of how you label them, as loved one, stranger, or adversary, from your center and from your heart, take a full deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Noticing how activated your heart might be at this moment, how activated your core might be. Noticing the benefits or the effects of this practice up to this point. You might be feeling a sense of expansion, presence, connection. Let your nervous system remember that. Just take that in and the embodied experience of this. And see if you can maintain this expanded sense in your heart of an awareness and connection with all human beings as we now narrow our focus. So taking the human family with you into your heart. As you bring your focus and awareness from your center and your heart to those in this meditation circle. So as we gather in circle with each other, with this group, we hold the human family in our hearts. Now taking those in this meditation circle into your heart, as you now bring your awareness from your center and your heart back to your surroundings, bringing the human family and this circle with you into your surroundings. And how do you meet your surroundings at this point? Does it change it now that you've got, suddenly your surroundings might feel a little crowded with all human beings in there as well? And bringing your surroundings into your heart as you bring your awareness back to yourself from your center and your heart. Taking a moment from your personal power and your heart to remember that you're one of those human beings as well. Sometimes we forget to take ourselves in our hearts. Checking in now with your heart, checking how activated your heart is at this moment, and checking in with your battery, noticing if there's been a shift in your percentage from 0 to 100. And as a way to close this practice from your center and from your heart, take a full deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And see if you can maintain what you've cultivated. Oftentimes what happens when you finish a practice is you shake it out and then you go back to the way you were an hour ago. See if you can stay in the state that you're in right now, because that's the idea. The idea of the lasting peace practice is how can we walk this into the world? And so shake out the body a little bit, take a look around, and imagine how you are now, your level of presence, connection, open-heartedness, activation or energy in your body, whatever you're experiencing. Repeating this enough, and this is your practice to be able to walk this in the world, feeling safe and powerful and impactful, without effort. So we started with a motivation. We did our practice, and now we have a chance to reflect. Is there anyone who wants to share what your experience was? Anything you want to say about the words that I said or Amelia said? Amelia, by the way, typed in her email address if you want to, and you can look up her website as well. The email address is associated with the website if you want some information on that. You can unmute and share.
So Joe, reflecting on the flatness of the image that we are all living with, as a former passionate librarian who worked with my favorite client groups, elementary school students, think about the power of the picture book. As you were talking, I was thinking how much the picture is a vehicle for conveying a message. And having done lots of story time with children, I wonder if there's something in the magic of that we can transpose to the interaction that we're having. It's a different medium, but we know the illustrators make the story come alive through a flat presentation.
Yeah.
So you've got me thinking, and I'd love to have our circle think about if there's some magic in what that's all about that we could transpose into our circle. Barbara bowing out.
Thank you, Barbara. You're speaking my language. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Because in a sense, I don't know, but I would love to hear more your thoughts, and maybe another time or whatever, that what this does is I would imagine with the picture books, it's meeting someone in their imagination place. And then there's possibility, yeah, so beautiful. It's activating some inspiring place of possibility. I love that. Let's consider that. Thank you.
I'd like to share, if I may.
Sure.
As I was focusing on the people, my loved ones, it was getting really big. And when Joe talked about 7 billion people, most of whom are strangers, I felt a whole lot more connected. And the word that came to me was kindfulness.
Beautiful.
Bowing out.
Thank you, Christine.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Good morning, everyone. I just had a couple short thoughts because it's something that is coming up again and again for me, both in my work, but also with some of my students in studio. And Joe, it's that idea that you keep bringing back to us of resilience and sort of how we do resilience? What does that actually mean? And it keeps coming back to sort of this idea of it's really through awareness, understanding what's happening around you, or actually looking up to see what's happening around you, acknowledging what's happening around you. We're sort of all struggling with truly acknowledging some things these days. We all do. And then adapting to it. And through that sort of 3-step process, it seems like then we can evolve, which really, that resilience that you talk about at its root is all about evolving, because that's a path forward. And I think it's really a beautiful, beautiful idea. And each time I have been here on these Tuesday mornings, I find one of the things I continually write down as you speak is resilience. And not easy, really complex, and sometimes super complicated. But I just want to really thank you and say how grateful I am that that is a constant theme that you push forward to us, because it's really where, for me, it's where my strength comes out of, even when my strength is lagging, woefully lagging. So much thanks.
Thanks, Trish. Yeah.
I think a big piece of the resilience of what you were speaking about, Trish, is returning to balance and flow to be able to continue to navigate. And in this meditation, Joe, I heard, and maybe you always say it, but the balance and flow with self, surroundings, and others. So I can feel the different layers of how we can come back into balance and flow, and how that builds resilience. So thanks.
Thanks, Shelley.
Hi, this is Chris. I'm from New York. I had a very fascinating and new experience today as I was sitting there. I felt like I was holding and embracing the whole planet Earth. And at the same time, I also, if you imagine, I was like, I seen the globe that I was holding, but at the same time, I was part of the globe that was holding itself. So it was just like a really beautiful kind of experience of being part of the whole, yet holding the whole and embracing the whole at the same time.
Thank you, Chris. It's a beautiful image. I just want to share a little bit. That's part of what resilience is. It's not just, a lot of times we mistake the word resilience to mean to endure, and it doesn't have to be that. It could be thriving, and it should be thriving. Resilience is thriving, and it's as Trish said, it's about our evolution. And so part of the resilience is also understanding where we are rigid, right? So there's the flexibility becomes, and adaptability becomes a really powerful tool. We have to reframe that. And so in a sense, if I would interpret some of what you're saying, Chris, is that it didn't matter anymore who other was and who you were. It was all one. That there was a sense of I am holding and I'm being held. And that's another level of resilience, where the rigidity of labels seem to become more porous. And that's why every time we're focusing on this idea of loved ones, strangers, and adversaries, and self. Eventually that becomes porous, that becomes more malleable. And it's in that malleability that we can transform into this idea that our hearts can hold all beings, regardless of what our experience is of them. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I felt this and connected this to the organic sense of, in nature, the cell. And so there's the border of the cell actually isn't a wall. It opens and closes, and it's, while protective, it's permeable. So I like kind of to blend imagery with what I'm experiencing. It satisfies a part of me. And so this expansion is self and inclusive of the next and the next. So it pleases me to feel a mirror with life in that maybe more organic way, more touch way.
Nice.
So it's not like you stay open all the time without any sense of a parameter, but it naturally can include and come back in and include.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that
Every-
imagery of the cell. Yeah, and that's
every
also,
breath.
sorry?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, just to say with each
With each breath.
breath and
Beautiful.
connection inside and with another. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here, Corey.
Nice to be here.
One
I just want
more.
to say I'm loving all of these images today. There's like so many beautiful images, the picture book and the cell and the holding the earth while being a part of the earth. And Barbara, particularly you, made me think like there's something about like resilience and the imaginal realm, like somehow entering into a more subtle sense of how we imagine our relationships with the world and with ourselves. And I don't have more to say on that, but you just opened like doorways in my mind on that is like connected to curiosity and kind of deeper story. So thank you. Super juicy. Thanks to all of you. I love these images.
Yeah. And Trish added something in the chat around making art. That's very beautiful. In the relationship of, picture books. Yeah. One more last thing before we close.
This is Ken. I thought someone was going to go ahead.
Hey, Ken.
Was there anybody else? Hi, Ken from DC bowing in. Yeah, the artistry, the imagery, everything. It's reminding me a lot about the creativity and collaboration and co-creation that was coming up as you were talking, Joe, and like other people have said, so many of these images were touching on so much in the talk and the meditation as well. And I was remembering there's so much going on, it's hard to put it all together, but I've sort of been reminded by people speaking that the expression and the message coming through is not really just about the words. So I'm going to let go of some of that. And I'm remembering a workshop years ago at a Unitarian assembly where a hand drummer and a hip hop poet did a workshop on kind of speech. And the idea for the workshop was, what if we encountered each other and considered our speech to each other poetry rather than a conversation? And a lot of this and the challenge of how to connect not just with each other but many parts of ourselves with many parts of other people and many layers and many experiences, which is this rich diversity of places, which I think is part of what makes it difficult at times to connect even though we want to. That complexity and that diversity feels like that organic kind of a field. And so I'm just thinking about this meditation, this circle, these practices as very much in the realm of artistry and creativity, which feels like another piece of the permaculture and, you know, this way of evolving. So I'm really, really inspired today. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Beautiful. It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here.
All right, so let's, so we did our practice. We started with a motivation. We did our practice. There's stuff going on in the chat if you want to look at that. We had a chance to reflect, and now we'll dedicate. So you know, I think would say it's very auspicious that we get to gather random people from around the world. Of the 7.5 billion, that these 33 or so come together around from different parts of the world. let's honor that for it's sacred in itself. Just the statistical impossibility of that, and hold that in our hearts, and to say that what we've done generates energy. We kind of inject that into the World Wide Web that can spread out through the world, and take that the efforts we've put in, the positive energy we've put in, and really direct that where we think it's needed right now. So just take a moment just to reflect very quickly in your heart. You can do this more later if you want. Of people who you think could use a little bit of support, open-heartedness, resilience. Groups of people you know, groups of people around the world, institutions, organizations that are working overtime to support those on this planet. Healthcare workers, bus drivers, grocery workers, factory workers, was working in the fields. And may all human beings, and may all beings, not only human beings, have enough fresh water to drink and food to eat. And may all governments govern from a place of wisdom as opposed to fear and greed. Let's take one breath to close this practice. Remember to walk this out into the world and practice this for the week, and practice how can you cultivate and hold this throughout the week, and we can discuss next week. Have a wonderful week. Take care of yourself. We're always here. If you have any questions, you can reach us at respectfulconfrontation.com. If you know other people who you think would enjoy this or appreciate this, let them know. And see you next week. Thanks, Cheryl, for the flowers.
Love you.